Spring often brings colorful yard displays, but one in Lawrence carries a quiet, powerful message. This display at the Lawrence Police Department is called a pinwheel garden. KCTV5's Betsy Webster has the story behind those pinwheels and the behind-the-scenes work they represent.
Each one of these pinwheels here represents something that, well, should be simple. A safe and carefree childhood. And this whole display, well, it's a reminder that it takes a whole community to keep kids safe.
Here it also reflects an essential partnership that began 5 years ago and changed how Lawrence police investigate crimes against children.
Part of the most important role is to create a child-friendly, neutral environment for the interview to take place.
Not at the police station.
Yes.
Instead, kids come to the Children's Advocacy Center. Here, a social worker specializing in forensic interviews takes the lead. Detectives watch and listen on the other side of these cameras.
And what we want to do is build an environment of safety where we can obtain information from our children.
Police then take it from there to get an offender prosecuted. But rebuilding a safe, carefree childhood goes beyond that. The Advocacy Center builds on the trust established in the interview to support the rest of a child's recovery.
And they have therapy, they have good interviewers, and that collaboration is somebody that helps restore the child's confidence post their interaction with the police department.
You too can play a role by believing a child who speaks up and talking with your child about boundaries.
You know, they're hard conversations to have, but if us as parents aren't having that conversation, then who is?
Do you want to show your support? Well, just come here to the front lobby of the Lawrence Police Department where they have extra pinwheels. You can plant one of these in your yard, or you can add one to the display in front of the PD to honor a child in your life. In Lawrence, Kansas, Betsy Webster, KCTV5 News.